Hey everyone, Sean here, and today in this video I wanted to sit down and talk about one of my favorite games, at least within these times, which is Like a Dragon, formerly known as Yakuza. I've played these games for a good amount of time now. I've played Yakuza 6, and then I played 0, and then I definitely played through 1 and 2 of the Kizami series, I believe it's called. The enhanced port or remakes, whatever you want to call them. And I still have 3, 4, and 5 to do, but and then of course I've played Yakuza Like a Dragon or Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon, however you may want to refer that, with the JRPG, turn-based JRPG featuring Ichiban, right? So I have yet to play Gaiden as it just came out, I believe, right? So it's been once again a hot topic when it comes to this situation here regarding to the English dubbing of Like a Dragon, especially with Kazuma Kiryu, the character that has driven the series as we grow to love the series ever since it sort of came to revelation, right? And of course, this series was there very long back, right? Long time ago, when GTA, of course, at the time was very popular, especially during the GTA 3 days. People just thought this is just like a Japanese GTA kind of thing. Is it? And there's that lack of interest, right? It just was competing and marketed probably the wrong way at the time, or just people's mindset at the time. It's just, it just can't be helped, right? GTA was on the mind, so which is why over the years it took that long to get this explosion of popularity thanks to Yakuza 0 and the Let's Players, especially with Best Friends Play. That's how I got exposed to the Yakuza series. It's basically them that really put me on the map when it came to Yakuza stuff. It looked really cool. I'm like, who is this character? He is really badass. He just does really cool shit, you know. Um, he got the dialogue, he got the drip, he got everything, he got the muscle, he got the power, he can just lift motorcycles over his head like nothing, and boom, it's just that's key, right? And he had, of course, the voice to match that, right? And it's not just him being badass. He can be wholesome, he can be very lovable, like a very tough teddy bear almost, right, at times. And that's all the more to love him for that. And so we've grown to, of course, love the Japanese voicing, which was the only option at the times during that big blow up, right? So we really grown to get used to Kuroda-san's voicing as Kazuma Kiryu, the Dragon of Dojima. And so the thought of having the English dub was mostly not on the mind, right? And there, of course, there's that pocket of people who want the English dubbing because they have their own reasons, right? Which is not entirely new, surprisingly, because of course the old Yakuza games actually had English dubbing, and probably only the English dubbing at the time, with Daryl as Kiryu. I forget his last name, forgive me, but also with Majima, voiced by, believe it or not, Mark Hamill, right? Which was a very big, funny, although pretty funny fit at the time. But but the point being is that yes, we had English dubbing, but I guess just it wasn't working out. So they just put it out in Japanese, and that's how people got used to it, right? I think if this was side by side with the English dubbing, then things could have been a little different, right? Who knows? But because we were only exposed to that Japanese dubbing, we've grown to really strongly love this Kiryu, with Kuroda-san behind the wheel. And that is why when YouTuber YongYea was announced as the English dubbing at the time, there were many, many, many comments of doubt for this choice, and I am or was one of them. And then once the clip came out from, what was it, the Anime Expo stuff, and like that one clip that came out from a Twitter account. There was, oh man, there was a huge division between the haters and the YongYea fans, right? And when I took a listen to that, I really strongly felt like it was just YongYea reading through the lines. That's just my sort of first impression at the time. And he was trying to like correct it by saying like, oh, this is like, an off recording or something. The editing and all that stuff wasn't done, and it's like a rough draft almost, blah blah blah. However he explained it, but basically this is not the final product essentially. Um, you know, and he really tried to like extinguish those flames as much as possible. But this is kind of one of those situations where, of course, this was going to happen, right? With how fans react to these things, I, did not partake with the comments. I don't. I believe I try to be constructive as much as I could, on my end, and essentially, I think this continues here, unfortunately, with this recent clip that came out from well, this is I think put together from YongYea, but the clip was from Gamers Prey, I guess, and he decided to put this on his Twitter, his X/Twitter account, to show people like what the comparisons are like. And even he admits like this is strange to him, this is just a weird sort of thing that's happening to him. It's very surreal, I'm sure, but let's just take a listen to it just for the sake of things. I know many people at this point have heard it, but just for the sake of discussion, let's just take a listen.
もう3分待ってくれたら素直に感謝できたんだがな。
Right.
No. Had you just waited 3 minutes, I'd have been a little more grateful.
So he already, really lacks the sort of nuances that Kuroda does with his take on Kiryu, right? And you can really see it or hear it with the amount of experience, right? YongYea revealed that he has done this stuff, or the VO stuff, for officially, what, 3.5 years? So you can imagine, how long Kuroda-san has done this as Kiryu, of how many years, right? Like just with Kiryu alone, Kuroda-san has done some anime stuff too as well, but really he's definitely renowned for his performance as Kiryu. But he's done it for much longer than YongYea, so of course he really has grown to really have those refinements, right? It's like it's such a vast difference between the two, just from experience alone. And I'm afraid that YongYea unfortunately just isn't able to do so here in this given time here that he is, um uh with the all the practice that he could and all that stuff. It just unfortunately did not pay off enough to please most people, with at least in this instance anyway.
Yeah.
町の情報通何人かに接触して渡りがつけた。
I made contact with a good number of people. Just waiting for them to get back to me.
I just can't help but hear YongYea, right? Like I just don't really believe that this is an English Kiryu. This is kind of like my 2 cents on this whole thing. It just sounds like he's just reading through the lines, pretty flat performance here in comparison to Kuroda-san's voice, especially in this compilation. I've watched YongYea over the years, back in college, during college, whenever I'm like doing my assignments or just waiting for my next class, which was like hours and hours. I just couldn't help but to consume a number of YouTube videos, including YongYea's, with the gaming news and stuff like that over the years. So I definitely am familiar with his work as a YouTuber, and also same with, of course, Yakuza, right? I've grown to really like Yakuza over the years, ever since the sort of revelation thanks to Best Friends Play at the time. That's like years ago at this point. That's crazy. So, and thanks to that, his whole thing blew up to this point, you know. But he has that voice. He has his signature on YouTube, and it just kind of carries over here because it's something that he can do, right? Obviously, that's just what he can do at this time. He hasn't really crafted the voices that he is given, right, for the characters that he's given. I know I am aware that he has done a JoJo's dubbing of sorts with Poochie. Poochie is like the most prominent role besides the English dub of Kiryu. And and for the most part, people didn't really like berate him for that performance or for that role as Poochie. I haven't really. I don't watch JoJo myself, so I don't have an opinion on that side of things. But from what I can, from what I saw, from what I can gather, his performance as Poochie was, pleasing at least, to say the least. So, but here, unfortunately, it's definitely not the same. It's definitely not the same result here. It's just there's definitely once again a division between the fans and the haters, right? And you can definitely tell already that I am definitely not favoring this choice here. And I think that's the key word here. I don't think this was a great choice for the English dubbing of Kiryu. I think YongYea he just sounds too young. He doesn't have the same energy. As much as he's putting his heart into this, I don't think it's coming out well enough in the final product, at least in this iteration here. And of course, I'm not a voice actor myself, a full-fledged voice actor myself. I've taken an acting class at some point in college because, again, I had the time to do so, and I grew to really appreciate the process of acting. Just from that one class alone, I had to do a monologue and everything, right? And I had nothing to work with, right? No background, no nothing. I just had a script and my voice, which is essentially the essential toolbox for voice acting, right? You're working with nothing. So voice acting is a lot harder than you think. Like, I've kind of watched a number of YouTubers on this exact topic, and they try to do their voice, and they were like, oh yeah, I can do it, that kind of thing. And believe me, most of those YouTubers, nah, that ain't it, chief. That's not it. Let me tell you, let me be honest there. You have there's a lot more to it than just sounding cool and stuff like that. It's just acting. It's in the name, it's in the term, right? But anyways, point being, it's very difficult. So of course he's been given this like difficult task to like be the English voice of like a very beloved Japanese character. So now, yes, of course he wasn't gonna sound like Kiryu 1-to-1, no way. But even then, I just can't really come to like this fit, right? This is not a good fit. I don't think this casting was great. I think they picked him because more so because of his background and not so much, his actual performance here. I hate to put it like that, but that's just my honest opinion. Maybe I could word that better, but that's my opinion on it. So point being, he just lacks the grit, the age, the sort of nuances and the experience to really drive those nuances that really drives home Kiryu, right? Like how Kuroda-san has. We can take a couple of more listens right here.
There's always something extra.
あんたは
Just waiting for them to get back to me.
あんたは相変わらず一言余計だ。
There's always something extra, isn't there?
余計な話はいい。例の人物について
Let's cut the chit chat. You got any info for me?
日本人確かなのか。
Japanese. You're sure about that?
いい加減な情報だな。
Some help, that is.
So if you really listen to Kuroda-san's voice, he really like has some range. Like there's a more variety of range in just those clips alone. And that's just something like people take for granted, right? It's not just he's not just sounding badass. He's really sounding very suave and smooth and just there's that good variety within that voice, but he still somehow packs that grit, the sense of strength and the the badassery that he's been packing over the years. He hasn't lost it, even though in this story, of course, Kiryu went through a lot and blah blah blah. I don't want to really spoil too much, but you definitely still hear that within the Japanese voice, the Japanese side of things. And unfortunately, I cannot say the same for YongYea. I mean, he just sounds very flat. He just sounds like he's just going through the lines, and that's just kind of how I hear it. And so, but I just overall feel like this was a miscast. I feel like he should have been a younger Kiryu. That's a little more believable, and they should have casted someone older, has the capabilities to have those sort of nuances, right? And that's just again, that's my essential 2 cents on this whole situation. I mean, if you look at the comments here, I mean, even YongYea himself just feels estranged by this whole situation. But and but, but of course, with other people, like this person right here saying, unfortunately, in my opinion, you're not a great match for Kiryu's voice. Yours is just not deep enough for old Kiryu, in my opinion. I like your videos, been watching you since Metal Gear 5, analysis theories, blah blah blah. So used to your voice that I can't hear Kiryu in Like a Dragon. I just hear playing YongYea. That's the problem here. I think that's a huge issue with this whole thing. Again, he just kind of like summed it up here. You're not a great match, just not deep enough. You just don't have the you just don't have what it takes to really really match up to Kiryu. Even with your take on it, right? With YongYea's take on it, I just don't think it works really overall. But it's not to say that I'm trying to hate YongYea for this. I just think that it was a mishap on the casting side of things, and I'm just gonna put this is me with my tinfoil hat here for conspiracies, but I feel like, right, they picked him for his YouTuber side of things, but not just that, right? I feel like they picked. I feel like they went with this pick knowing that people were going to be hating on it, and that hate would like drive up the market and drive up more sales, and they're just like doing this at the expense of YongYea here. Meanwhile he's being I hate to really say this, but to gaslight him, to like make him be, of course, this iconic, awesome, badass character. Like, if you were given the opportunity to voice this man, this character that we've grown to love over the years, this Japanese Yakuza-esque badass motherfucker who crushes people with motorcycles like nothing, like of course, right? Who wouldn't be, right? So I'm pretty sure he, was given this big ass plate of steak and just like, oh my god, he just went at it, right? And gave his all, I'm sure, and put his heart into it. But it's just, once again, it just didn't work out. I don't think it's working out. So I think that's enough from that video. I think we got the gist of it. And again, if you take a look at the comments, unfortunately, I don't think I'll be playing in English. I noticed how okay, never. You're trying too hard to sound gritty. And there's another thing too. I think YongYea in this set, in this entire project, is just putting. It sounds like. Let me make that clear. It sounds like he's just putting way too much energy into trying to sound like Kiryu, but not instead of putting the essentials into into acting, right? And I'm sure he has plenty of experience as an actor. He said he took theater, I think, but the problem is that as an actor, right, is not just about being cool or being badass. You're badass and cool because you're believable. You're able to immerse yourself into this world that's given to you, and you make yourself believable that you are that character, right? And establish yourself as that character. That's why, Kuroda, I'm sure, had enough experience to be able to pull that off, and that's why he really is believable as Kiryu, right? And of course, there's that first time bias, right? Like it's once you hear that voice, once you see that impression, right, you're forever gonna think Kiryu as that voice or whatever, right? And if something changes, you're just gonna be like, no way, this is not gonna live up to the blah blah blah. But you know, it just can't be helped. That's just kind of like how life works when it comes to entertainment media. When when there's recastings or when there's different voices for this character that you love, there's these situations are bound to happen, right? It just cannot be helped. But back to here, I digress. I'm sorry, but YongYea, I feel like he's just putting way too much energy into trying to sound like Kiryu and not just be like Kiryu. And immersing himself into that world, right? But I think even so, it just doesn't. He just doesn't fit as Kiryu. Again, that just kind of like back to the whole miscasting thing. I think this is really um of course, I don't think it's his fault. He just took the role and stuff like that. But it's the casting directors or the casting callers or whatever you want to say. I think they made the wrong decision. That's just my personal 2 cents on that. I just yeah. Again, damn, bro. Even if you guys don't like his voice as a match for Kiryu, that sort of thing. Like even this person, like it's acknowledging that is kind of like understanding that to them it's not a good match. Um, More like Young, yeah, that's gonna be a no from me. Recasting Daryl, Kurilo, Kirilo, forgive me for the butchering, was a mistake. Recasting Daryl was a mistake. That's the person's comment right here. I will be switching the dub and sub to hear Kaiji Tang's performance or Tang. Um, but of course, this is probably the most important one. I'm sorry. I know you probably tried your best, and that's very much appreciated. You know, that's of course I agree with that. I tried very hard to like it, but I'm sorry, you just genuinely don't sound like him or Kiryu. This sucks. I'm sticking to sub. Very straightforward. Yeah. It's not that bad, but just not fit. Just does not fit Kiryu. I'm not gonna act like Daryl was amazing, but his voice fit him much better. It's growing on some people, it seems like, but then it's just you can kind of see with the GIF, you definitely kind of get the gist of like how most people feel about it. Voice isn't deep enough. You know, Kuroda-san's Kiryu sounds like a man who has seen it all, a man who has gone through the most severe shit possible and lived to tell the tale. I am just not getting that from your performance. That's really that like all those comments are just like part of that, right? That's just what the consensus is. So I unfortunately, if YongYea, fucking gets pissed off at my opinion about this situation throughout the video. If he ever watches this stuff, I understand. I don't blame him for it. I'm not trying to, just send like straight hate to this guy or anything like that. I don't know him personally, but my respect for YongYea for trying to give it his all, I'm sure, but it just doesn't work for me anyway. And other people are definitely on that same train. So it's a tough situation. It's really rough. And my hat comes off for him being very respectful for this situation. I mean, there are other famous voice actors who really don't take this stuff very well and come out like losers in that situation. YongYea is a very much a gentleman in comparison to those other voice actors. I mean, if we take a look at like at Wendy Lee, very disappointed in that situation because she came out like, I'm Yoruichi. Who are you to say that you were disappointed that she was recasted and was given back to me, or that kind of thing, where I like not an exact quote, but that's kind of what sums it up. And it's just like, it was very unfortunate to see that side coming from Wendy Lee, but that's just kind of how it goes. Like, true colors come out at times, and the saying goes, right, never meet your heroes. But I think with YongYea, I mean, I think for the most part he's taking it pretty well, and I think he'll be throughout the situation be a gentleman about it. He even said, like, if you want to just go for the Japanese dub throughout your playthrough, then go for it, right? Like, that's, makes it plain and simple, right? If you don't like it, then you don't have to like it, right? I mean, that's just what it is. So my hat's off to for YongYea. Very classy about it in comparison to others. So that's just my overall opinion about it. I know I've been saying that, like, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this is a topic that I really want to talk about because it does involve with something I really like within the video game realm, right? Like, I really like a Dragon / Yakuza. I played during the Yakuza days, man. I don't want to sound like a old veteran or anything like that, but it's what it is, man. It's been years. It's been years since this franchise blew up, So I do look forward to trying to get my hands on Gaiden, or The Man Who Erased His Name, later in November or early December. I would like to prioritize my other stuff for just other things, right? And including Mario RPG, that's a big one, and I really wanted to play that one. But Yakuza, I continue to love it, so I just can't help to just really open up this can. And voice acting is also kind of like a hobby / passion of mine that I like to celebrate and really appreciate the process that voice actors go through, and not, I hate to put it like this, but the grit that they have to put up with, right? The backlash, or the stuff outside of acting itself that comes with it, the baggage that comes with that, but yeah, anyway, I've said enough. So if you have any agreements or disagreements you want to say in the comment section below, I welcome them. Am I being too brutal, or am I being fair, or anything like that? Leave it down below. I would like to have a friendly discussion in the comments. And don't forget to hit the thumbs up, to subscribe for more videos like this. Really do appreciate it, guys. So sorry for the long video, but again, this is Yakuza, so this is really what I wanted to talk about, especially with the this situation here. So anyways, thank you very much, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Sean out.